Welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I am Nerder Doug, and I am afraid that tonight I have to talk with this nerd.
Oh man, afraid to talk with this guy. Hi. I am Nerdarchy Ted. Welcome to Nerdarchy, all that jazz. How are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Goes off to a casual start this week, but that's better than a bad one. And it's always fun to hook up with you guys and talk nerdy stuff, which we are about to do.
That is awesome. So I'm afraid I've had an abundance of workload. So I'm going to start off, and I'm not going to go right into Gamist yet. I'm going to kind of do a impromptu into the mate. So we've got obviously if you've been if you're watching this, you're probably well aware of the Mageforge Kickstarter that we did. And I'm doing the art directing for it. I've had, quite a productive day with that. We are looking to try and deliver early. No promises, fingers crossed, all that jazz. But in order to do so, we began reaching out, a week and a half ago, last week, trying to bring some more artists into the network and, get things moving. And I assigned like 35-ish or more last week of our 250 items. Today, I saw 17 pieces of finished work since week, and I assigned 10 new pieces today. So that's like essentially 27 items, essentially a 10th of our entire thing, plus all today's workload. So I am really pumped, and I'm sorry you're having a bad day, but I'm kind of.
Oh, I'm not having a bad day. I said it was just a casual start to the day. I was not as productive.
So I just feel like that's really, really exciting. And
oh yeah, it's super exciting. Yeah, I mean, we for those watching, Ted has been just totally crushing the art direction as we get all these now. We had a pretty big stack of art, but we just got on a roll and found a lot of great illustrators and a lot of cool opportunities to like tweak things, because it's like, let's make it look, or the description match this thing better because it's new art, or making up some new items whole cloth because we just got some cool art and we're like, yeah, this thing we could do a lot better. It's because some of them are old, so it's been really fun opportunity to like and just revisit a lot of those things that are like 5-6 years old and stuff.
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. So you can always head over to the
Kickstarter page
and be able to nab that if you happen to miss out and you want to get in on.
There's a link right in the description of this video.
Super enthused about this project, and I'm really looking forward to getting this in hand and be able to use it in my own games.
I'm kind of becoming magic item snobby in a way, not because like ours are so good and stuff, but it's like there's so much fun, and like a lot of our design and usage is like things that we think would be fun. Of course, that's why we make the stuff that we make. So it's like when I play games, it's like I want these things. I want them. It's like I want my character to have these things and do this stuff. I really, one of my favorite things is like a lot of those Treasures of the Tundra items that had like the double attunement pairs.
Yeah.
Not going overboard, but just a few other things along the way that we've been like, why don't we pair these things up in that way?
Yeah, there's a handful of items that do have that synergy together in some way, shape, or form. You don't see that often of two items that require attunement, but if you have them both, it only takes up one attunement slot. So I really dig that aspect.
And most of those, it's like they're not super duper like, you can like do this mega powerful like attack or whatever. It's more like they just work together in like unusual ways and stuff. Like maybe you can like control the weather in a small area. I don't know if that's what just popped into my head. Like the other ones, like you can create the weather and stuff. So it's like if either one is cool, but if you have them both, it's like I can create and control the weather.
A while ago, David created a sword, and as fortune would have it, actually wound up in my character's hands in his
very cool
the Dragon Veil game. And we came across a piece of art that I'm like, oh, really excited for. And I'm like, well, we need to make some, we need to make the item that would go with such art. I'm like, well, I could pair that up with that sword. And, even though the character who's got the sword would love to have that campaign's over, and like Dave and I traded groups. So like continue that campaign.
You can always revisit it, man.
We wanted to.
You can always revisit it.
So therefore I felt it was a lot.
Or play that character in another of Dave's games. Like, have you ever done that? I've done that quite a bit, actually.
No, if
it's a lot of fun to like reimagine and kind of like maybe just fill in the blanks yourself. Like, how did this guy get here? Like with these people.
Yeah, well, we have that campaign on, essentially a pause that if we ever back to, switching GMs around again, falls in the seat, we might just continue that game because it was like a very poignant part of the story. But it is what it is.
It was a cliffhanger.
Yeah, to an extent. Not some of the other ones that we've ended games on.
Or it was like a left open for a sequel, sort of like when you're watching a movie and at the end you're like, oh, there could be a sequel.
But I don't want to take up this entire time.
Yeah, it's only been 5 minutes. Good.
Talk about Mageforge.
Are you afraid of taking up too much time?
I might be afraid of taking too much time, and I will spoiler out that we do have the armor of Fright as one of the items that
yeah, there's a lot of there's a few. I think you made those up in a newsletter, maybe.
I could not tell you off the top of my head where that one came from. And the preliminary design that I saw today on the sketch for that, oh man, the artist.
Who's doing that one? Do you remember? It's all right if you don't remember.
No, I think that's this one here. I just happened to have
it
open. So yeah, I only so the artist is Miha Brumick.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've seen any of their stuff yet.
No, they just came on last week, so I got.
Oh, that was in that big swell of people.
So I got 4 preliminary sketches, and one, so we've got the armor of Fright. They're like, oh, for a direction here, do you want to go this way or do you want to go that way, or do you want me to put whatever I'm afraid of? And I'm like, you know what? I feel inspired. Go with it. So if you were to cross a suit of armor with like a mimic and a beholder and skeletons, that's kind of what I'm seeing here. So like the pauldron, the one that you see, like literally has got like eyes and a mouth, and then like,
oh wow, that sounds really cool.
There's eyes and skulls all over the front. It's looking really sweet, and that's just the preliminary sketch. So I can't wait to see, what this looks like when it's done.
Hey, do you think it's fair to say out of our Tuesday night group, since we've all DM now, that I give out the most magic items?
Probably.
I was just thinking about it as we were talking, because I was like, other games I've played, and I'm just like, yeah, they end up with a lot of magic items. And I was like, if I give these guys a lot of magic items, I was like, yep, every episode of Ingest Quest, there was some magic item in there somewhere.
I love
D&D in a castle. It was Monty Hall, man. They had so many magic items.
Well, that's actually one of the things that, like, for me, again, fingers crossed. I'm hoping that even if I can't get fulfillment done by September, if I can get a preliminary copy for me to take with me to D&D in a castle.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to have our products,
yeah,
used and what have you.
Oh yeah, give those cards out.
But that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm hoping to have happen.
Brian Smith says the realist phobia is FOMO. That's right. You don't want to miss out on Mageforge.
Yeah, but you also don't want to miss out on D&D in a castle either.
Is your table filled up yet, or has that gone?
Not as of yet. I don't know about Dave's, but I do believe I've still got three spaces open at my table. And I'm
sure it'll fill up.
I've just been seeing a whole bunch of stuff for the March events that are going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw guys there now.
Guy and Mark Meir and Ginny D have all been, either are there or have been seeing all their stuff. So
yeah, man, they got like everybody who is like a personality, it seems like, is at D&D in a castle this year. I mean, I mean, it's just like from now until like October, it's just like that's all that's going on at that castle. Is just never-ending people playing D&D of a bunch of different.
So let me ask you this question:
Sure.
when you make a character, and I'm totally transitioning back to or phobias,
Mm-hmm.
do you ever like specifically say, all right, I want this character to be afraid of, and then share with the party, the DM?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, a character that I am replaying, to my point earlier about playing character in a different campaign, is a Furbolg Twilight cleric that I played in a one-shot with DM Elise, I think is her name on Twitter. It wasn't streamed or anything, but it was Death House. It was when that UA first came out.
Sure.
So I wanted to try it, and we got to all have, I want to say, a rare magic item or 2 uncommon ones. So I took the Ghost Lantern. Is that thing? It makes light and has like a mage hand and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I'm going to he's a cleric who's a Twilight cleric, and he's afraid of the dark. And that's why he's a cleric, because it's like, well, if I can be strong for other people, then that'll like kind of mask his own fear of the dark. It's like, I'll light the path and just like provide light in the night and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it was a lot of fun in that. And then when I found this like meetup group playing at a game store not too far from my house, it was first level. I was like, I really like that character. So I busted him out, and that was the one who kind of converted the Clarg's goblins to, instead of ambushing the road, he would pay them a whopping 600 copper pieces a month. 100 copper pieces a month to make sure travelers could safely go down the road. And they were like, that's 100 awesome. Copper. And so I taught them all about Sehanine Moonbow.
Very nice.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. Is that the castle we were at?
Yes. Yeah.
Same one.
Lumley Castle, cool. Which is where D&D in a Castle is. That was the one that we went to after the mix up with the whole issue the last time. Not going to go into that crazy story, but it's definitely a lot of fun. Definitely. Looking forward to getting back to.
Hey, pro tip too, if you do go to D&D in a Castle late at night, maybe past 9, if you happen to catch one of the staff there, they'll make you pizza and bring it to your room.
I'll have to remember that one.
Yeah. Me and Dave were starving one night. We were walking around. It was like maybe 10 at night. And like one of the wait staff went by, and he had like a tray with like 2 just pizzas on him. We're like, where do you get those? They're like, oh, it's late tonight. We'll make, we have like just things that we'll make. And we're like, yeah, make 2 of those and bring them. So we just annihilated those things.
So I like Frag's comment in the chat. It says, whenever I encounter anything, I roll percentile. If it becomes 01, it's my fear. If something significant, I up the chances to a 10%. I don't like to just have that decided randomly unless it's like a first exposure to something that automatically has, it has a fear aura of some extent.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a topic that I kind of came up with, that I proposed to you guys to talk about, because I've been playing Dawnbringers for years now and never really thought about, willingly giving the DM, tools to use against you. I mean, I've used story.
Yeah.
But, the Jeremy, who plays my cousin in the game, he's afraid of water, has said so from the beginning. And whenever there's a significant amount of water, it's like, holy crap, that's bad news. So like when we were getting on a boat, he's like, what do you mean we're getting on a boat and sailing, like couple adventures? And he's like, I need some kind of potion of, I fell overboard. What do I do? Because he doesn't swim, and like, he's not going to make an athletics check and just be like, I'm going to be fine. He absolutely plays into it,
For context, you guys have been playing for like a couple of years before this point too, right? So it's like that was a known thing that he got to express. It wasn't like the first session.
No. Yeah, this was a lead up, because they played 12 sessions of, God, I forget what the first campaign was. We were doing the yawning portal stuff, so we did the
Yeah.
Fury.
Oh, it's probably Sunless Citadel.
Yeah, Sunless Citadel. Then we went
awesome adventure.
And we was quite a number of episodes in that. I want to say it was like 24 or more. And then we went into Ghost of Saltmarsh. And the Ghost of Saltmarsh, you got to get on a boat. And he was not thrilled at that point in time. So yeah.
Did you guys never mind. I'm just personally curious.
It's come up several times because obviously, we have to leave from Saltmarsh and then get to the next adventure, the next thing. But every so often the DM is like, all right, I'm gonna put something in here. And now we're doing the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. And once we got out of the carnival, like we're going down like the river. And it's like I don't want to fall.
It's a real trial for Jeremy's character.
And so like we spent a session like traveling down this river and looking for stuff, and the water rises like 5 feet. And we're dwarves. Like this is over our head kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
This is not good. And as we start last session, he's like, "Oh crap, guys! I'm sorry. I got to ring a water walk." I'm not worrying about it anymore. I don't remember where that came from. I could not.
You just noticed it on his character sheet.
But he just noticed it.
Well, you were doing Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is kind of whimsical. Maybe Jake just flipped it in there.
No, I think we fought several dragons over the years. There's plenty of opportunity to have gotten this kind of thing, and it's as a throwaway item for most people. It would like literally half the party might have an interest in it, because of backgrounds and backstories and what have you. But when you look at it whole cloth, it makes the most sense for the person who's terrified of water,
sure
kind of thing. So I like Phobias being, just straight up, my character's got it. Here's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You play with it. You've got great things that can happen in game that a character can develop a phobia.
For sure.
Last session we got into a kind of a talk about spiders and the spider dragon that I had come up with, and maybe it was.
I just got a really scary image of a dragon just with the legs like skittering along like a huge cat. It's like that'd be pretty scary. Would it have a web breath?
No, I actually went in a different direction. So it actually
breeds out spiders.
It vomited out more spiders.
You know what? You actually made up a spell. It's in Lost Lore Volume 2. There's a bunch of like arcanomancy or arachnomancy spells, yes. And then one of them was like cone of spiders.
Yep. Yeah, that was all based off of that particular encounter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there was a dragon
spider ball, I think is one.
There was a goblin drider spellcaster that had those kind of things. So this was my first real encounter where I did waves. So like every round would come in, and then once you
pretty memorable for you then, I'm sure.
Everything about that one was very telling, and I still to this day use waves of monsters because to me, if I'm trying to really sell the sizzle on, I want to put the down on players, but don't want to overwhelm them.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in a position that there is the chance to have more monsters show up on the scene without it feel like, oh, they've been traveling all of this way, you just didn't see them. So like, my we live on a boat game, they can literally just jump from the water up onto the boat or climb up and, oh, look at that. They're just arriving now. You didn't see them before because you can't see their approach.
Mm-hmm.
If like looking over the side or in the water, you're just not going to see it.
Yeah.
And then
I suppose in certain groups, like playing up a character's phobia, it could be annoying or something, like I was thinking about my cleric that's afraid of the dark, and it's just like, well, like he casts light and stuff when they're in a cave, or but they're like, oh, you have dark vision. It's like, it's still dark. I mean, And the way I feel, like I forgot being a Twilight cleric, he actually has dark vision to 300 feet, which I suppose if you were just afraid of the dark, might even play into that because you can see what other people cannot.
Right.
What I mean? Yeah. Just like no, we should be scared. Like there's a thing way down the across that chasm, or like down in that hole or whatever.
But I brought up this subject because like I know that there are some GMs that definitely do games differently than we do. Us, story is far more important than the mechanics of the situation. And
I actually like I don't want to forget because that made me think, like maybe you agree. I like when the mechanics help tell the story.
Yes.
Like that, like with the dark, like I just said, it's just like, well, I mean, on paper, it's like, well, you can see in the dark. What are you scared of, or whatever it is? It's like, well, it's still telling you something about, you're supposed to imagine they're a real person that's like in that situation. So,
yeah, there's always two sides to that coin. So you can say, well, I can see further, so therefore I know more about what's out there.
Yeah,
and the wolf that's prowling, maybe it's not going to come in and look at what's over by the fire, but I know it's there and it knows that I'm here. And
yeah, in fact, I would posit that a lot of people that are like really have like system mastery and like are looking for like, like they want to be challenged and stuff. I would say that would make a challenge of like, take all that you find, you have all your finely tuned character, but like try to imagine them really being there. And it's like, wouldn't they be a little apprehensive sometimes? I mean, nobody wants to fight for their life unexpectedly, like 6 to 8 times a day, or even once, right? So it's like, just try, like put those other skills to the test.
You've got the ability to look at movies and television shows and where someone gets out of a fight and what are they doing?
Yeah.
They're winded, their adrenaline is up, and very rarely do people kind of get into that side. And realistically, 5th edition does kind of go more into the heroic, super heroic style thing, and that play style is fine, but it's very easy to kind of ratchet things up when you begin getting into elements of fear.
Yeah.
So like there's two sides to the mechanics of it, and there's two sides or multiple sides of approach to
even if you are like a super powerful like warrior or something, like maybe like you were saying, spiders, which is a pretty common fear for real people and a very common monster in D&D of all sorts. There's phase spiders and like I said, driders, spider dragons. Sure. It's like, there could be things where you're just like, look, I know I'm really tough, but it's like, I just don't want to do that. Like if we could go take the path that's 10 times harder, but doesn't have that thing, I'll do that. And that could be an interesting story, right? I mean,
as literally what you brought up, case in point, my Saturday morning, my son is in a scout troop and they had a service project Saturday morning. They're cleaning an area by the lake because the local 6th grade class was going to be doing an Easter egg hunt for the toddlers. Awesome. Way to go. Let's go put in some community service hours and be good people. So that was my Saturday morning. Well, one of the fathers that was there found a birdhouse that was put up like 4 or 5 years ago. It had the date on it and everything. And like it was in need of repair, but it wasn't like trash. But because he could see into it, he saw that there was a nest of spiders. And after he saw that, he put it down and was not picking it back up. He was not putting it in his truck to bring back to, the scout building to get, fixed or what have you. He's like, I'm done with it. I don't do spiders. Spiders going nowhere near my car.
There's, I just looked it up in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Obviously it's like the fear and stress thing. And, that's just under like things to add to make your campaign more like horror themed is, and I like it because it's sort of, again, like is the theme for me. It's like I like putting more responsibility onto the players, where it's like,
Sure.
like, how do I, like DMs always this? How do I make my campaign like a horror theme? So it's like just have your players roll on this, and then convince them, just buy into, agree to that. Like here's some of them. I can't stand heights. That'd be a common one in a D&D, or in caverns and castles and things. I hate feeling alone or isolated. So like, like if walls come down, I mean, like a lot of just common tropes of D&D, like dungeon traps or being in, high cliffs and stuff. I don't like being followed, sudden noises fray my nerves. It's like, yeah, just those little things can get people thinking in that way. And then you do those things as the DM. So it's like, that's how you make your campaign more.
So that actually kind of broaches back to the point of like, there's several different approaches as a DM of either using a player character's fear to make things a little bit more interesting. And there's another of like, well, I'm just going to exploit it to see how far I go, or, challenge this player, but like from an aggressive or from a adversarial.
I guess that would be a great thing to just touch on in session 0, because it's like, well, you're choosing your character to have that fear. You obviously have some reason for it. Do you want me to do that kind of stuff, or do you just want to like, when it comes up naturally, like play into it?
And session 0, like that's absolutely a time to talk about, whether, I would like all of the characters to have some kind of phobia, so that it can be incorporated. And if a DM is asking, it probably is going to be.
Right.
It could be a narrative thing. It could be.
Yeah, sure.
I like playing with dreams a lot. I think they're.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you're going up against someone who's manipulating your dreams and they find out what your phobia is, yeah, you better believe it's going to get used against you. You can do so in a way that tells part of the story, not just be like, I want to do this, that you're stunned and I get free hits on you. Haha. That to me, that's not interesting. That's not compelling.
Yeah. So I was just looking at the comments.
Yeah. I kind of got Brian's like, phobia specifically relates to a feeling of being scared or in danger when you're not necessarily in danger. Fear of a dragon while you're in front of a dragon is different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, like the thought of, well, I guess the thing like agoraphobia, that's when you're it's when you're confronted with, I mean, you always have that fear. I guess he's saying like a dragon's like literally causing the fear in you. Yeah.
So I think he's bringing it down to that, like there's phobia and then there's a fear. So if you have a phobia of,
I guess phobia is considered like an irrational fear, but it's like sometimes, I mean, like if you're afraid of like, heights and stuff, it's like, well, I mean, you could fall off and die, I guess. Right. But if you're like terrified of it, you never do it.
I believe the approach is if you have a phobia, you could be like, all right, well, I'm just not going to approach the situation where that could happen.
Yeah. Like if the quest was like on a mountain cliff, you'd just be like, well, I guess we're just not doing that quest thing because there's no way I'm going up that mountain. Right.
Right. But, there are elements of like, well, what happens if you're put into the situation?
Yeah.
Like I'm not asking you to come up with a thing of like, okay, well, you know what? I want to have a thing where I want my characters to be afraid and they're not going to approach the edge because they're afraid of heights, or, they're not going to go attack the spider monster because they're afraid of spiders. I'm looking for players to buy in and say,
it's a subtle nuance.
I'm a real person. There are things that bother me. The character who's afraid of water still got on the boat.
Yeah.
Required the party to be like, look, we're going to get you on the boat, whether you like it or not, because we need your help. You got to go do the thing with us.
I guess the extra level of buy-in that you need in the group, I'm thinking of like your situation. It's like, I'm sure Jeremy, the player, knew like, yes, I'm not going to like just be a jerk and like, nope, I'm just not going. It just created a fun moment to interact. Like, I'm sure he knew that, you guys knew that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're just going to be like stubborn, then that's not fun for anybody.
It's meant for role playing.
Yes.
Create and opportunities that are going to be interesting and memorable. That was obviously the beginning of campaign 3 of Dawnbringers, and we're now in campaign 6,
Wow.
season 6. So like this was a
What,
couple.
what are you doing now? Like I haven't caught it.
So we finished. God,
Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
we did. So 3 was Ghost of Saltmarsh, 4 was Heart of the Nightfang Spire, 5 was Rime of the Frost Maiden, and 6 is now Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Oh, you're still in that one.
Yeah, I mean we were only a handful of episodes.
That seemed like a pretty fun campaign. I'm sure. I mean, Jake and I obviously doesn't just do it like straight out the book, but
Right, yeah, he definitely modifies.
Yeah, sure.
Things that are there.
I always do, but it seems like is it pretty fun though? I mean, it seemed like a fun like just a campaign to me.
Yeah, we actually last session we met the Harengon Brigands.
Okay.
So
you guys are like real high level too, so he has to like scale everything up.
Yeah, we modified things. So we went. He basically powered us down to we got level 14 at the end of season 5, and then immediately we're like, okay, we're gonna start season 6. Okay, you guys are all level 1. Go.
We've been I'm just it's always easy to think of stuff after the fact, but like make like if you got like turned into like kids or something and just make like stat blocks that just had like whatever the iconic like that's your character's thing was, they could do something like that.
He did. He actually made us kids.
Oh really? Oh, that's cool.
All of our weapons were literally nerfed, and by nerfed
like they were nerf weapons. That's awesome.
They were literally foam weapons.
Wow, good on Jake.
So he's like,
that guy's great.
You're the equivalent of 8-year-olds. Go have fun. So we all
but you had like your own memories and everything. Like
we remembered everything, but we still we had to deal with the mentality of we're 8-year-olds.
That's fun.
We got to re-explore, some of what childhood would be like for each of the characters.
Man, that's what's awesome about having long campaigns, right? Because you can just do that like after a while, you just start doing weird stuff like that. I've never gotten to play in I've ran years-long campaigns, but that's why I'm so keen to like revisit our Tuesday night groups or any of them, because it's like, oh man, I got to play them for like 12 sessions and then maybe more after that.
Yeah, well, I know when it comes to my turn, unless one of you guys or multiple of you guys insist that we go in another direction, my plan is to go back to Dungeons and Delving.
Oh yeah, I love that.
When that happens, I'll have to make the determination as to what exactly transpired, because I've got two different things, because we obviously left on a pretty big cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm. We're like 11th level too. I mean, we're pretty powerful, I think.
And I'm pretty sure where I want to go, but it's not 100% set in stone.
Cool.
But I'm afraid that I can't do exactly what that's going to be yet. So, when I, going back to Jake for just a second, obviously, Doug, that I watch a lot of streamed games.
Sure.
I've been watching Critical Role. I actually just mentioned on a video that we recorded on Wednesday that I've been enjoying the General Adventuring Company, which if you're a fan of our, live chats and things, we had, them on a couple of times in different groupings to talk about the stuff that they do. And Adam's a really great GM. It's a very small channel. There's less than 20 episodes up at this point in time. If you wanted to go check it out and get caught up. But I absolutely adore their stuff. But, I was consuming more content than was coming out. So last week I was caught up on all the games that I was watching, and I'm like, I need to do something new. And, I turned to, Jake's other game that's been going on for a while. So he's actually running the Candlekeep Mysteries.
Oh yeah.
And they run on Monday nights.
Oh, okay.
Counterpart to this. But the one player shows up in costume every single episode. And he just absolutely nails it. Everybody is fantastic in that game. One player has like probably the worst luck that I've ever heard of with dice. Literally, I think 3 natural ones in a row, and
oh man,
like literally a session where he never rolled higher than a 5. So definitely my heart goes out to that dude. But the game is absolutely fantastic. Jake does a great job with it. So if you're looking for games, General Adventuring Company and Mini Terrain Domain, are both on YouTube. A lot of fun, a lot of great role players, a lot of great stories. If you're into watching gameplay, but
boy, this isn't just going off on tangent, but that game I started playing on Sundays at Last Night of Fandover. It's interesting because, like, most of my consumption or perception of people playing D&D is like us streaming and watching other streams and stuff, and it's like, yeah, kind of like, not mockingly, but just call it like normie D&D. It's just like, oh, there is like 6 encounters like before we rest and stuff, but some of them like part of that Lost Mine, like the first like goblin cave you go in, one of the rooms has like 3 wolves chained up, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, they might attack you if you unchain them and stuff. We tried to like calm them with animal handling, but we didn't unchain them, and nobody found us. So it's like, I mean, technically that was one of the encounters and stuff. So we didn't, and it's like we probably gotten like 4 or 5 other just small skirmishes with goblins, and it went pretty quick. And there was some cool, some good role playing. It's I was thinking on the way home, because it's probably like half hour away, so it's just decent drive, and I was just pondering the experience, and I was like, yeah, see, like I'm so used to stream games and playing in them, because we played for like 4 hours. It was like after like 2.5, 3 hours, like, is this gonna end soon, or like I don't know how much more like role playing I can do. But then I was like, started thinking, I was like, well, I'm not like hamming it up, but it's like, yeah, nobody's really going on at length, like with the role playing and stuff. Like, no, they just want to like, what's the next quest, man? Let's go do that.
And there's nothing wrong with that stuff.
No, it was kind of fun and refreshing. It was like, oh yeah, people still play like this. It's cool.
With the Scribes and Scrolls game that I'm watching, I'm on episode 8 or 9, I think, at this point in time, and they're like 2.5 to 3 hours sessions, and obviously that's only been since Wednesday morning. I've really been enjoying what they're putting together, but like they had a couple encounters, and like, okay, well, it looks like we need to take a long rest. It's like, dude, it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Are you just gonna fall asleep here on the floor? And they were thinking about it, like, but they were like, they kind of got pushed along, and level 1, man, can be really brutal. And there were a couple of close calls.
There wasn't in our session too. I gotta say, clerics are just beasts at first level. I mean, like, it's like you got armor, shield, a decent melee weapon, you can heal, you probably got a ranged cantrip, and maybe some other utility thing. It's like, man, I mean, I was racking like a 17 AC. Like I was like tanking. I had like a shield and a morning star, and like the first attack I did was against the goblin, and I rolled like max damage plus the strength was like 11. And we're first level. It's like, so the goblin they only have like 7 hit points, and it was just like totally massacred that thing and stuff. Is great.
Yeah, and when you get those things like you take a monster from full to just down in one go, like at those levels, like that's awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely change how the flow of an encounter goes.
Yeah, I think there was like 3 goblins, and then the other 2, like, I was the only one there, so they both tried to hit me, totally whiffed, and then it's like the rogue just popped out and like sneak attacked the other one, and the wizard firebolted it.
Well, we had a similar kind of situation in our Shadow of the Demon Lord game this past weekend. We're rather new campaign, and that design that you level up every single session, and we're level 2. It's like, oh, got access to some spells now because I went magician. Sorry, no, we were level 1. So like, this was.
Oh yeah, because you started 0, right?
Started 0. Yeah, that's the wonky thing that.
Yeah.
But I'm playing a magician, and I'm like, I got access to magic now. That's awesome. I've got all these spells, but they're not all combat spells. They're kind of like, some things are utility and what have you.
Mhm.
But session starts off with like this little kid saying, the undead are attacking, please help. So it's like a couple hour journey to kind of get to where this little hut is. And by little, I mean it's a pretty big building.
Okay.
Like
Like a lodge.
Yeah. So like there's like 6 zombies and 1 extra zombie, like described differently.
That seems like a lot for like a sort of OSRE style game. 6 zombies. It's like
and to be fair, like I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go. And I thought, okay, we'll fight the 6 zombies, we'll, run into the building and we'll be able to like rest and we'll be good. And I'm thinking it's gonna be over. Like that's all we had to do. So, like I used basically all of my magic, and I'm a wizard, magician, if you will.
Yeah.
I have a whole lot of hit points. I've got no armor. Like this is super freaking scary. And as we're in the building and there's, half a dozen survivors, like we peek out and we hear things outside. We know there's more undead. More undead than we can possibly deal with.
Oh, it was like a zombie horde.
It was like a zombie horde. It was like,
oh my God.
Like there are dozens out there. I'm like, oh God. So
light the cabin on fire and run the other way.
That's actually what we
Oh, really? They'll be attracted by the flames and the light.
So we start, like talking to the people who own the cabin, and they're like, no, this is our dream. We've scripted and saved and what have you.
Your dream's over, man.
No, James, the bandit turned adventurer now, was like, that they, because we have a group right now that's, makes a lot of joke with pickles. Vegas turned the game into like, or this element of the game into like, this was like the pickle hut.
Okay.
And made pickles here and did other things and what have you. So it's like, well, is this building the pickles or are the pickles in you? Like he rolled really well on an intellect roll, and they were convinced that even if we burn this thing down, that they would be able to bring it back and what have you, because they started off at like one of those little market stalls.
Mm-hmm.
Grew the business enough to make a building, so obviously it's possible.
What's a great that just sent me down a line of thinking, which me personally, if I had a phobia, it would be zombies. I know it's like they're not real and stuff, but that just seems like the worst thing that could possibly ever happen.
Zombies are no joke, man.
Yeah.
So
and I was thinking like, well, in D&D, I was like, yeah, I mean, they are scary, but like in like D&D, zombies don't infect you and stuff like that. And I was like, it would be a great phobia for a D&D character, even if you're like first level, may never encounter one, a Varg wheel. Because it's like, that's a horrible thing. You might have heard something about them, and it's like, that's like legit something mechanically to be afraid of.
Sure.
Like they are, it's like kind of the equivalent of like, a bunch of zombies wouldn't really scare a D&D hero so much, because it's like, well, I'm not going to turn into one, and there's, whatever. But like a flock of Varg wheels or something, that's something to be, I think, rationally terrified of.
So, Dave and James, there are, more martial characters.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to get, all this cooking oil. We're going to slather it all over the downstairs. We're going to open up the front door. You guys are going to go out the back door, close, leave it close, or close it behind you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to run upstairs. They drop a rope down the back.
Okay.
So they're going to go out the
so far sounds like a pretty good plan.
My character, I did a fog cloud type stuff.
Okay.
And once the zombies are coming into the house, they're going to throw down the lit candle onto the cooking oil and just let it all burn.
Yeah, nice.
So it's just like, plan went off without a hitch. We managed to get the survivors back to another building. The zombies didn't pursue us. I'm like, all right, no idea what happened. to the zombies, hoping most of them got cooked, but it was like,
Yeah, probably.
So that was,
that sounds pretty damn exciting, honestly. I was really picturing that like a lonely cabin and just a horde of zombies. Like I said, I'm just personally like freaked out by zombies.
Sure.
That'd be pretty exciting RPG session.
As a player, knowing how gritty, this DM has been running this game, like I was definitely afraid that, several characters were going to die.
Yeah, games really do set an expectation, whether you realize it or not. Like 5th edition, you just know. I mean, it can be hard and stuff, but like, it's just harder to die and things like that. And like, it's more kind of like in the player's favor and balance. But yeah, if you're playing like an OSR style, like grim and gritty game or like Life is Cheap, it's like, yeah, man, you really get that sense the whole time. Like I probably get, like when I played that Mork Borg, I was amazed I didn't die. Like I was like, wow, I felt like proud of myself. Like, man, I must have really like I used all my gear, try to bypass things, and it's like I lived barely, but I did. Again,
like and going into Phobias, like I've had so many characters die that like I as a player, I don't know if I have got a phobia, but I actively like, all right, I don't like to make the stupid decisions. And I love the role-playing choices that Dave makes of like, yeah, I'm gonna do this thing, and if my character dies, they die. But like, I don't ever want that to happen anymore. So like, he's got all these great stories. We did a video on.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that video. Actually,
yeah, and I'm like, like, I'm trying to figure out how I can get there, but like the characters, like I gotta start making a different mindset character. So like from the beginning, from origination.
Sure.
I'm willing to do that.
Well, two things come to mind from you saying that. One is there's always the third participant in your game, which is the dice.
Right.
And Dave's bad at rolling, and but it's just the law of averages, right? Like when we were playing that fan buffer game, like I said, I crushed that goblin and they couldn't hit me, and I started to feel like, man, I'm like invincible here. I went down eventually, like in another fight. I was like, and I was making death saves, and somebody hit me while I was down. I was like, dude, if I fail one more, I'm gone. Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't, and the other two guys saved me and got me back up. I actually did, like, took the gold instead of the equipment because I like to buy it. I bought a med kit and stuff. So like when somebody went, earlier had went down, I was like, I got a med kit, and he's like, make a message. I'm like, I went to stabilize him, and
right.
That's like, I got a med kit. You don't have to.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm a cleric, man. I like to really think about like what would this person do? Like they know they can't just throw magic cures out all the time. They want to heal people. So
yeah, I can't have a character that does not have a healer's kit on them. Because I've seen it. Yeah. So
it's just like basically like essentially a emergency first aid kit. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you could rationalize literally anybody having a medicine kit on them. It's like, I'm leaving town and going into dangerous wilderness. Yeah, I'm going to bring like bandages and a couple poultices and stuff.
10 auto stabilizers is absolutely worth the gold investiture if you're playing where people could get dropped, and literally beyond what you need to function, armor, weapon, implement, that kind of stuff. That's the first purchase, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, totally makes sense that literally anybody would have that if you were, unless you just like got run off your farm like as the adventure was starting and you just didn't have that.
So, the concept of phobias, has a lot of things that can be approached from a lot of different directions. But obviously, as I kind of jumped right into magic items, I'm kind of going to come back to magic items.
Sure. I love magic items as well.
I feel like it's necessary to like kind of approach the subject of phobias and magic items.
Okay.
There's a number of things that like allow you, it causes fear or it specifically targets one thing. But if you've got you know, a Duragar item, like you could very easily like, oh well, you've got a phobia towards mind flayers. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm now interested in the concept of, well, what if I make some magic items that whatever it does, you attune to it, you get all these cool things, but you're gonna get this caveat of you're creeped out by, you're afraid of, you don't enjoy being around, insert whatever.
Interesting. It's sort of like it kind of takes on a little like what's the um, term for people that can like read objects, but like the person who made it, it's like, like if it was a Dwargar Smith, it's like, well, they might themselves have made it to fight mind flayers or something because they are, they're afraid of them.
I wouldn't,
sort of like residual.
I wouldn't have it so that like the powers and the phobias, counteract each other. It would be like
sure. Oh, okay.
So like, maybe it's, if you want to tailor it towards, well, maybe this guy is a dragon hunter and, you've got something that's very much against dragons, but because the inherent fear of the Dorgar is there, boom, you've got a thing.
Oh, okay.
Simple things, like, afraid of fire, afraid of water, afraid of heights. Like if you can have it attributed to, the person who poured their body, sweat, soul into the item, that person went in. So like maybe the item, isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. And perhaps, you can find a way to undo the phobia.
Like I see where you're going. Like those things can be potential like player driven plot hooks because like maybe they just never think about it, but you never know. It might just be like, why is that? Like I want to know more about that. I've certainly had that experience in games more than once, where like players just, I didn't mean anything by it. I just thought like, made up a magic item and gave it some weird detail or whatever. And they just are like, what does that mean? And like, they want to know about it. Like if they're ever at a library, they're like, I'm going to see if I can find it. Like out of the blue sometimes. You ever had that happen?
Sure.
Like sessions later, it's like, okay.
When I was looking, again, a little bit of spoiler alert, but it's like, within the first couple of sessions of Scribes and Scrolls, they're level 1 and they find a +1 item, and I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy, to find something like, I know it's only uncommon, but at level 1, to me, that kind of breaks my typical threshold of, when I would be giving stuff out.
Even back in the day, like, or is that just like how you play now?
Now.
Oh, okay.
My mindset now.
Sure.
But I look at like, oh, well, what kind of items would I give out, that had that kind of thing? So as I'm talking, and this is all like spitballing kind of stuff. But imagine giving a fighter, a +1 weapon, but they were afraid of fire. Like, that's kind of interesting. Like, okay, they can kind of break the attunement and, what have you, if they're not into it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So they know that and they have the choice, but it's just like, okay.
But okay, this spellcaster starts throwing fire bolts and they got to make wisdom saving throws before they can approach that particular caster because they're manipulating fire. That could change things and what have you. And you use that sword long enough, maybe you personally develop the fear of fire, or maybe the sword is able to, like, you're able to overcome, your willpower over the weapon, kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Ditch the weapon and find a better one, but, those are the things that I kind of think about, because sometimes it's fun to give something a weakness. And
sure.
From a player perspective, that would, like, a lot of people like, all right, I got a +1 to hit and damage, but I hate fire. What the flip, man? This is not like.
Yeah, I guess, right. Well, you got to read the room. I mean, like, to me, that sounds fun too. Yeah, like, it's like, because, like I said, I like to imagine what it would really be like to be that person and stuff.
Sure.
And that also, I guess, touches on like how much you trust your DM. I mean, if it's like, if you're just a killer DM, where it's like, not even killer. I mean, if the kind of games you play just involve like, really dangerous dungeons and stuff, then that is probably more of a factor in that way than it would be like, yeah, cool role playing opportunity. It's like, man, you screwed up, like, got somebody killed or whatever. But yeah, I think that kind of stuff's fun for sure. Have you ever had any characters with like phobias, like true, like that came up more than once? Or
I am certain that I
I was
have.
trying to think of it. Mostly just that one cleric I've played now quite a few times.
I'm certain I've had characters that have developed it because I know like throughout the editions there have been variety of rule sets, but like truth be told, I've been doing this long more than 30 years at this point in time, and it's like there are so many characters that I've played and so many in like more than one shots, but
yeah.
The campaign ends after like 6 sessions. So like there are more characters that I have that I just don't remember at all.
Sure. Yeah, I guess the one for me stands out because, well, I'm playing him right now, but also it's like that's why he is the class he is. You know what I mean? Like, so I always remember that about the character. It's like that's why he's a Twilight cleric, which is a really great subclass too, by the way. Man, sleep is awesome. That's one of your spells that you get. That's how we beat the boss. We stumbled upon his, like, we found his escape exit at the beginning of the dungeon and like snuck up on him. And there was like a bunch of goblins in the room and him as a bugbear and a warg. And I just cast sleep from like down the hall, but like all the goblins in the warg all fell asleep. So we just like busted in there, beat the crap out of the bugbear.
Nice.
And, went from there. Yeah, it was fun. But
so,
yeah, I was like, sleep.
I know you mentioned that you are kind of creeped out by zombies.
Yeah.
You personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, on the other hand, I'm more affected by like the creepy things that are immortal. And I know that I'm getting ready to deal with it. And I know that Dave has dealt with it, in games that he's run in the past. So
like vampires?
I'm a little leery as to what's going to happen in Wild Beyond the Witchlight when we encounter the hags.
Oh, okay.
Jake is a really great GM and a really great storyteller.
Yeah.
I trust him implicitly. But man, if you do hags right, hags don't lose. So like I just really don't know how this is going to go. So I'm
you ever dabbled in hags as a DM? That's one of those monsters I always feel like, oh man, you got some cojones if you're gonna start using hags. And like, I mean, that being said, sometimes like even in Curse of Strahd, they're kind of chump creatures.
Sure. So my thought pattern, we did a recent video on dragons. It hasn't gone up yet, but it will be in the somewhat nearish future. And I kind of like talked about that, like dragons aren't chumps. Like they shouldn't just ever die. Like there are so many ways, like I am infinitely superior to you. I can bide my time and I'll get you in the end kind of scenario. So how does anyone ever kill a dragon? I just don't understand.
Yeah, I don't think they would fight to the death. Like, and yeah, if it was going poorly, they'd be like GTFO.
So like dragons, like the Cthulhian outsiders, like those kind of like elder,
like aboleths and stuff.
And hags, like they all of these are like, in this supernatural, like so far out.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Like
I get you.
I'll just come back. Like I got the time to wait. And even if it's going to be like, what, haha, on your deathbed, here I am.
Yeah.
Like,
I can buy that. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that because it's like you never know. Like you just never know when they might show up, or it's like you could just be walking down the street one day and boom, right. Revenge of the Hag, or or any of those just like I said, immortal creatures.
So I'm always leery about doing them because it's like, all right, if I'm going to do it right, it's just going to end in a TPK, or it's going to end in like this whole scenario where it's like I'm running for my life all the time now, and that's not fun. So like I tend to go in other directions. At some point in time, I I very much want to do things with, you know, with hags and see what that looks like, but I have to rethink my approach because you know
Our
I'm not the
Tuesday
super
night,
genius. That
yeah, our Tuesday night, what is now our Tuesday night group began with some hag action. You guys were that was the first time I ever like I want to use a hag. I spent a lot of time like coming up with that hag, and if this helps any insights and people watching too, what I kind of figured is like they're kind of like con artists in the sense of like they'll give you what you want, but it also is something they want maybe 100 years from now, or whatever. It's like sure, like the things you were doing, it's like she was not tricking you. It's like that was helping your quest, but it was also helping her, and it wasn't even anything against you guys. It was just like, well, if we keep playing this for years or months, I'll come back to that or whatever. But it wasn't like she was
and that she was just rubbing me the wrong way, and I'm like,
yeah.
Even if it helps, I really don't want to help her. Like,
yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of this reaction you want from a hag, where it's like, should we be doing this? Like, I don't, like they're not threatening us, but it's just giving me the creeps.
Yeah. So I'm afraid that we're kind of like out of time.
Yep.
I knew that phobia was gonna rear its ugly head again. So you have any kind of last pointers?
No, I think we covered it or meandered a lot, but we had a lively conversation.
So next or tomorrow night we're gonna have the season finale of
my gosh, yeah, wow.
Holy crap, that's been quite the wild windy ride.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. What Steven does, with that ending, I'm afraid that things are going to go poorly because of what we're up against.
Yeah, it's pretty daunting. But we're tier 4 now.
We are tier 4. I have to actually finish getting him leveled up. But that's not the only game on the horizon. Friday, you can come back and join us for another episode of Untraditionally Arcane. Not only is this episode 13, but it's going to be on April 1st.
Oh wow, that's auspicious.
So we'll see what kind of nonsense these amazing characters and whatnot get up to. I'm looking forward to it. I guess I should write some material. Then we got a special one-shot next Tuesday night of some Morkborg. So come on back and check out some interesting games all within an 8-day span. Of course, Dave is going to be back on Friday with his Friday live chat. Dave and Doug are going to be here next Monday for live chat. I don't think we've picked what we're going to be talking about yet, so
we'll do that tomorrow.
you'll have to wait on that. So that's enough from me. Until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.